Hey guys, Jason Julius here, and I want to talk to you about something today that almost nobody talks about honestly: performance anxiety in the bedroom. And I'm not just talking about not being able to get hard, I'm talking about the whole category of experience. The moments when things heat up and you're suddenly in your head instead of being in the moment. You're watching yourself, you're monitoring, you're running a live commentary on how you're doing, whether she's enjoying it, whether you're going to be able to hold it together, whether this is going to go the way that you want it to. And the moment that monitoring starts, the connection is gone, the erection softens, the arousal drops, and then you feel the anxiety about the anxiety, which makes everything else worse. If you have ever experienced this, I want you to know three things. First is, it is incredibly common, far more common than most people talk about. And you are not broken and you are not alone. Second, it is not a physical problem. It is not your testosterone levels. It is not your age. It is not your attraction to her. It is a specific mental pattern that hijacks your nervous system at exactly the wrong time. Third, it is completely fixable, not with pills, not with tricks, not with positive thinking, with a real understanding of what is actually happening and a specific tool that addresses the root of it. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what the monitoring loop is, why it destroys arousal at a neurological level, and then I'm going to give you what I call the observer reset, a 3-step technique that you can use in the moment to break the loop and come back to your body. And then I'm going to tell you something that goes deeper than any in-the-moment technique, because the observer reset fixes the symptom, but there's a root cause underneath it that, if you understand it and address it, changes this permanently. Before we get to the reset, I need to explain what is actually happening when performance anxiety kicks in, because most men think that it might be a confidence problem. They think that they need to feel more confident, feel more sure of themselves, and less worried. And so they try to generate those feelings by willpower, which does not work, or they just avoid the situation, which makes it worse. Here is what is actually happening. Your brain has two primary operating modes that are relevant here. The first is what I call participation mode. This is when you are in your body, in the present moment, experiencing what is happening. Your senses are open. You are feeling her skin, hearing her breathe, smelling her hair. You're inside the experience. Now, the second is the monitoring mode. This is when you step outside the experience and start observing yourself from a distance. You are no longer in it. You are watching yourself be in it. You are evaluating your performance in real time. Here is the critical thing to understand. Arousal, erection, and genuine connection all require participation mode. They are physiologically impossible in monitoring mode. Why? Because monitoring mode activates the sympathetic nervous system, the same system that runs your fight or flight response, and the sympathetic nervous system actively suppresses arousal. It redirects blood flow away from the genitals. It increases muscle tension. It floods you with cortisol, the stress hormone, instead of the oxytocin and nitric oxide that produce and maintain erections. So when you step into your head and start monitoring, your body is not actually failing you. It is executing a perfect physiological response to what your brain has classified as a threatening situation. The threat being, I might fail in front of someone whose opinion matters to me. Your body doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and the fear of embarrassment. It responds the same way to both. And the response to danger is not to maintain an erection and enjoy intimacy. It is to prepare to fight or run. So performance anxiety is not a weakness. It is not a character flaw. It is your survival mind doing exactly what it is designed to do in a situation it has incorrectly classified as dangerous. The fix is not to try harder or feel more confident. The fix is to stop the monitoring loop and return to participation mode. That is exactly what the observer reset does. The observer reset is a 3-step technique that you can use in real time in the middle of an intimate moment when you notice that you've slipped into monitoring mode. And it does not require you to stop or say anything. And it takes maybe like 10 or 15 seconds to execute. And it works by redirecting your awareness from the monitoring narrative back to direct sensory experience. So here's why it works, before we get into the steps. The monitoring loop is a thought-based experience. You are generating and believing a mental narrative about what is or might go wrong. But sensory experience and mental narrative, they cannot fully occupy the same awareness at the same time. So when you bring your full attention to what your senses are actually experiencing right now, the narrative loses its grip, not because you fought it, but because you shifted what your attention is doing. Step 1, name it and drop it. The moment you notice that you are in your head, you do not panic, you do not fight the thought, and you do not try to suppress it. You simply notice it. In your mind, you say something like, well, there's the monitoring, or there's the anxiety. Just name what is happening without judgment or resistance. This is the observer position. You are the man who sees the anxious thought happening. You are not the anxious thought. The fact that you can observe the anxious thought or anxiety means there is a part of you that is already separate from it. That part is your anchor point. Naming it creates a tiny but crucial gap between you and the narrative. That gap is where the reset happens. Step 2, drop into one sense. Now you pick one specific sensory input and give it your full attention. Not general attention, specific deliberate attention, like a spotlight. It might be the physical warmth of her skin against yours, the exact texture of it under your hand. It might be the sound of her breathing right now, the specific rhythm of it, the slight catch in it. It might be the weight and heat of her body. It might be the smell. Whatever is most vivid and immediate to you in the moment, that is your anchor. You do not try to enjoy it or perform enjoyment of it. You just observe it with curiosity. What does this actually feel like? Not what should I feel? What do I actually feel right now in this specific point of contact? Now, this step bypasses the narrative completely because the senses report directly from the present moment. The narrative, it exists in the past or the future. The senses only exist now. When you are fully in the senses, you are automatically in participation mode. Step 3, let the breath lead. While you're anchored in that sensory experience, you take one slow, deliberate breath deep into the belly, not into the chest. The belly expands outward on the inhale, and then a long, slow exhale through a slightly open mouth. Right? This breath does something specific. It directly stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the main signal line to the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the physiological opposite of fight or flight. It is the rest, digest, and connect state. It is where erections happen. It is where arousal lives. One belly breath sends a direct chemical signal to your brain that says, we are safe. The alarm is off. It is okay to be here. In most cases, one full cycle of these 3 steps is enough to break the monitoring loop. Name it and drop it, drop into one sense, and let the breath lead. If the anxiety resurfaces, you run the cycle again. You're not trying to eliminate anxiety permanently in this moment. You're just returning to participation mode, one breath at a time. Now that is the observer reset. And if you use it, it will work. But I want to be honest with you about something. The observer reset is a real useful tool and it genuinely works in the moment, but it is addressing a symptom. The monitoring loop does not start in the bedroom. It starts long before you get there. It starts in the accumulated story your survival mind has built about your worth, your adequacy, and what it would mean if you failed in front of someone whose opinion matters to you. See, performance anxiety is not really about sex. It is about the deeper question, am I enough? And the survival mind, which is the part of your nervous system designed to protect you from threat and social rejection, has decided that the answer to that question is determined by your performance in the bedroom, which means every intimate encounter is, at some level, a test that you might fail. When you are in that frame, the monitoring is inevitable because the survival mind monitors everything it is classified as a high-stakes situation. It is doing its job. The problem is not the survival mind, it is the misidentification. The survival mind is running a story that says, your value as a man is conditional on this performance, and the anxiety that story generates is the source of the very failure that it is trying to prevent. This is the paradox that most men with performance anxiety live inside. The harder they try not to fail, the more the monitoring intensifies. The more the monitoring intensifies, the more the physiology shuts down. The more the physiology shuts down, the more evidence the survival mind collects for its story that you are inadequate. The only way out of that loop permanently is to address the belief that created it. The belief that your worth, your confidence, your adequacy as a man is something that has to be earned and can be lost, because that belief is wrong. And the reason it feels so real is not because it is true, it is because the survival mind is very fucking loud. And underneath that noise, there is something much more stable and real. Here's the distinction that changes everything if you really let it land. Confidence is not a feeling that you wait for. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is not something that you generate through willpower or positive self-talk. All of those are operating on the surface level, at the level of the survival mind. Confidence is a state that already exists underneath the survival mind's noise. It is not something that you have to create. It is something you have to uncover. Think about the moments in your life when you were completely in flow, when you were fully absorbed in something that you loved or deeply connected to someone you trusted or just completely present in the moment that was working. In those moments, the monitoring was gone, not because you got confident first and then the monitoring stopped. The monitoring stopped because you were so fully in the experience that there was no room left for the narrative. And in that state, what were you? You were not a man performing. You were a man being. And that state of being, that unguarded, unmonitored, fully present state, that is where your authentic confidence actually lives. It was there the entire time. The survival mind was just talking over it. The leadership energy that we talk about in the elevated lover framework is not about acting dominant or forcing confidence. It is about operating from that deeper center instead of from the survival mind. A man in his leadership energy is not performing. He is present. He is not managing how he appears. He is just here, grounded in his own body, genuinely in the experience. And from that place, the monitoring has nothing to feed on, because there is no performance to monitor. There is just a man who is genuinely there. The observer reset gives you the in-the-moment tool, but the deeper work is learning to connect with that authentic center before you ever even get to the bedroom. Learning to recognize the survival mind's voice not as the truth about you, but as noise, and learning to drop underneath it into the genuine confidence that has always been there. That shift from living in the survival mind story to living from your authentic center is what makes the observer reset unnecessary over time. Because when you are genuinely present and genuinely grounded in who you are, the monitoring loop does not even start. All right, so let's bring this together. Performance anxiety is not a physical problem. It is not a confidence deficit. It is the survival mind classifying intimacy as a high-stakes test, which activates the fight or flight system, which physiologically prevents the very thing that you are trying to do. The observer reset breaks the monitoring loop in 3 steps. Step 1, name it and drop it. Notice that you are in the monitoring narrative, name it without judgment, and recognize that the you who can observe the anxiety is already separate from it. Step 2, drop into one sense. Bring your full attention to one specific, immediate sensory experience and let it anchor you into the present moment. Step 3, let the breath lead. One slow belly breath stimulates the vagus nerve and flips the switch from fight or flight back to the parasympathetic state where arousal and connection live. Use it anytime the monitoring starts. Name it, sense it, breathe it, one cycle at a time. And then do the deeper work. Start building your relationship with the authentic confidence that already exists underneath the survival mind story, because that is what makes this permanent. Now, I have a free exercise over at jasonjulius.com called the Authentic Confidence Exercise. It is a specific practice designed to help you connect with that deeper center, that part of you that is grounded and present and real underneath all the noise the survival mind generates. It is not things like affirmations, and it's definitely not hype. It's a genuine practice that trains you to access that authentic state so it becomes your default rather than something that you have to work to find. That is the permanent solution underneath the in the moment reset. And the two together are what actually move the needle the most. So head over to jasonjulius.com to access that exercise now. The link is in the description below. Now, if this video connected with something real in you, please hit that thumbs up button. This helps this content reach more men who are quietly dealing with this exact same thing and not finding honest answers anywhere else. And make sure that you're subscribed, because we have a lot more coming up on what it means to show up as a grounded, present, fully embodied man in the bedroom and in life. And leave me a comment below with any questions that you have, and I'll see you in the next video.